You bring the energy, he'll do the rest. Martinez Company, powered by Sports Radio 102.9 The Game.
You're going to hear it right here.
The show starts now.
And a good Monday morning here on the Coastal Sports Network. 10:12 here on the East Coast, 9:12 up there on the left coast, and some parts in the Midwest. There's a lot of folks that are freezing. As Peter had mentioned, about minus 41 degrees in some of the neck of the woods. And I will say, even though today, not as warm as it was over the weekend, nonetheless, it's still much warmer. So we hope that wherever you are, one is that you're safe, two is that hopefully that you're warm. And don't worry, spring is just around the corner for a lot of folks, because I know some people, even though they say they love the winter months and they love the cold weather, some folks absolutely can't stand it, and it's just absolutely insane. But starting off the morning here, Penguin AZ says, Buenos dias, hermano, in chat, yo. And he figures it's 8:12 here in Arizona and a cool 50 degrees. That's not bad, though, for the desert. This time of the year, 50 degrees. Hey, I'm pretty sure a lot of folks in Arizona end up taking it, but good morning to my hermano Penguin AZ, and good morning to everyone out there who listens to us on Sports Radio 102.9 The Game. Of course, you guys can download the app at sr1029thegame.com. And for those who have the app, goodness gracious, that have the app, thank you for downloading the app and listening to us on our digital sports platform. Of course, you can hear the show on our digital radio station, SR1029. And go again directly to the website, and you can hear and see the entire sports lineup. Also, for those who are off, we hope that you're enjoying your President's Day. And let's not forget about the presidents of the past who have done their best to make this country yet alone a lot better, and yet alone great again, as some of them like to say. So thank you all once again. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or X, as is mentioned, LinkedIn, YouTube, Kicks, Rumble, and of course, directly over on our website and other plethora of platforms. And don't forget, you can always follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel at SR1029/CSN Florida. And for those who do, I thank you once again. Now, starting off the weekend, Friday night, if you're going back to it, and for those who had a nice Valentine's, we hope that everyone enjoyed their Valentine's Day, that they had a good time, whether it's with their loved ones, with themselves. A lot of times there's people who just, they're just by their lonesome, and that's fine, because everyone's entitled to whatever they want. If you want to be by yourself at Valentine's, by all means, go ahead. And I know some folks living back in Philly, some people had, I guess what they would call the fall-winter relationship, and then as soon as the spring, summer came around, they just left the person they were with for whatever goofy reason. I guess they want to be single for the summer. But for those who enjoy their company with their wife, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, whomever they may be, we hope that you guys had a great time. But USF Lacrosse, undefeated early on in the season, 3-0, a really, really good match coming up here on Tuesday, but they had a really good match on Friday. Closing in was Lehigh University, the lacrosse team, as that was their first game for the season. Not the way they wanted to start, but they are 0-1. Again, USF Lacrosse is 3-0, but it got close as we're going into the third. And as I mentioned to Coach McCord, it seems like the later part of the third, and especially into the fourth, are the stronger suits for USF. When they played with Mercer, it was against Mercer, and played with Mercer again on the match, but nonetheless, the way their match play was with Mercer, it was close towards again, going into the half and then coming out to the third, and then eventually USF ended up taking the match for their second win of the season, but more importantly, their first road win early on. And then they come home and they take care of business as well. I do have a lot of the scoring, as I mentioned early on, and you guys can always follow not only obviously USF Lacrosse on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow us here at CSN Florida, and I'll give you guys a lot of the updates and the scores the same way at SR1029 on Twitter. And I try to update and provide everything for you guys, therefore you know exactly what's going on. I will play a little bit later on the post-game presser with myself and Coach McCord. There was also another young lady that was just to the left of us, and she had a question as well. But 17-7 was the final at Corbett Stadium. And yes, there was a lot of stuff going on Friday, obviously being Valentine's Day. Also, you had the friendly match over at Ray J with Lionel Messi in town. So even though there was a lot going on Friday, it still turned out to be a really good turnout over at Corbett Stadium. And we hope that continues to build and keep going because that's what we want to see. Also, a lot of folks from Lehigh had traveled, and I'm pretty sure they were probably happy being down here because at the time of the match, it was teetering right about 79 degrees. It ended up being a nice, comfortable night out there at Corbett Stadium. But thank you to everyone who showed up. It was a great time. We hope it continues. And please keep supporting this team as I will get into the scoring and how it happened. Good morning, Dave. Dave from Dave Wallencheck. As he mentions, what's up? If you guys have not checked out his show, Steel City Renegades with Chipper, it is a great time. If you guys want actual real facts, if you want real talk, Chipper and Dave do not hold back at Steel City Renegades over on Red Lion Radio LLC. They put together a fantastic show, whether it's the two of them, whether it's Dave by himself, whomever it may be. I know from time to time this season, I did not have the opportunity to join them on their show. Hopefully come next season, we'll line up little things a little bit better for next year. But if you guys want to hear real talk, Steel City Renegades, go to Facebook, subscribe, and not only follow them on Facebook, but you can also seek them out as well on YouTube. It is a great time. Like I said, they don't hold anything back. I know a lot of times people like to say, well, Steelers fans shouldn't really say this. But again, those guys do not hold back. And I applaud them because no matter what it is, no matter how many times they could be down, they always find a way to get back up and keep going strong. So thanks today for checking in this morning. We've had a blast before on the show, and I'm pretty sure we'll end up doing it all over again. It's just things happen. Everything happens for a reason. The rebuild of their studio will happen here shortly. Therefore, they can put out even more content than what they already have. So check out the show lineup over on Red Lion Radio LLC over on Facebook. I'm pretty sure Dave and the entire crew would appreciate it just as much as I appreciate his friendship for the years that we have known each other. And they also have Talking About Balls, if I remember the other show. Another one where a lot of the folks do not hold back their opinions. And listen, we're all opinionated. We all get to have fun. On this network in particular, we really don't like to get involved with a whole lot of politics because, again, that's for the political side of the house. We like to have fun with what goes on in sports. Along with talking about the USF women's lacrosse team, also the women's basketball team continues to win. Coach Fernandez with his 480th win, 20 away from 500, which is a monumental feat for any program, yet alone for any coach. And I believe they are currently on a 7-game win streak. And the triple overtime win, the last one at home, as I mentioned to Andrew, I know they were on the road not too long ago as well. If I remember correctly, let me look back here at the calendar. Yes, the last win was in Boca Raton. FAU 74-62 was the final. And then they are in Charlotte on, let's see, was it Tuesday? Tomorrow night, 6:30, you guys can watch on ESPN Plus. Also listen to it on Bulls Unlimited. You can go directly over to the website and you'll be able to listen to it then. Along with the next time they will be home will be on Saturday, the 22nd. That'll be 7 o'clock against Memphis. So a lot going on with all the programs. Baseball, softball, winning weekends. And I believe Coach McCord also put out there as well about the support, and thanks to everybody who came down. I know for Friday night, it was basically a triple header. You had the women's lacrosse team on the pitch at Corbett Stadium, and then baseball, softball at the same time. So if you guys stood kind of in between both stadiums, you can see exactly what was going on. But it's a nice turnout and a really good turnout at USF. Yesterday, even despite the weather, how windy it was, they were still able to get both games underway before the rain ended up moving in for about an hour and a half, 2 hours here in these parts. So thank you for everyone for the support to USF. I'm pretty sure they greatly appreciate it. I'm quite sure Michael Kelly appreciates it. Rhea Law and everyone. Coach McCord, like I said, I'll mention here the lacrosse here in a second. Along with, as he comes coming in, Joey B says, good morning, Angel. Good morning, Joey B. And then also says America is back. USA, Canada hockey, Daytona 500, the beast on the track, and the Thunderbirds. God bless America. Yes, Joey B. I forgot about the Thunderbirds too, but yeah, the Thunderbirds went out there. They were there at the post race. They were out there taking pictures with William Byron, and it was good to see that as well. I know I recognized two out of the many that were there, and that's because we had the pleasure of interviewing them at Radio Row in Vegas. So it was nice to see a familiar face over there. But yeah, it was really, really good. Rick says, morning to Angel and the cast of characters. Good morning, Rick, as we appreciate everyone who's checking in this morning. But yes, Daytona 500, that kicked off yesterday, as everybody knows, or maybe you don't know. Daytona starts off with the Super Bowl of the year. So we just had the Super Bowl, which I will also get into the parade with our Philadelphia Eagles versus Kansas City. Of course, the Eagles end up winning Super Bowl LIX, or 60 as most, or excuse me, 59, pardon me. 59 is a lot of, I'm predicting myself into 60, and boy, I'll get yelled at for that one. But no, Super Bowl 59, it was a good parade overall. I will say there was probably definitely a lot more people than the first one. And some people stated that they wanted to go. Some other people said they really didn't want to go. Unfortunately, there was a situation where, and I don't know because the entire story has not completely been, I guess, told, but apparently someone shot two women in the legs. Someone stated there was possibly an argument that had ensued. But again, when you guys go to parades, and it's tough because Philly always gets a bad rap. During the celebration, some stuff was taken down the weekend, that Sunday when the Eagles end up winning the Super Bowl. And he's just, listen, folks, if you're going to go out, don't destroy your cities. Don't destroy property. Don't throw things through windows. Let's be sensible here. Don't take down street posts. It makes it look bad. And then you just add fuel to the fire to where people say, see, look, Philly, once again, blah, blah, blah. They don't talk about as much as the parade. They just talked about the two people who got shot. And just go out. Enjoy the moment. Your team busted their butt to go out there to actually win a championship for you. The second one in Philly team history that they're able, and it was nice to see both Lombardi trophies up there in the Museum of Art towards the very end of all the conversations that are going up on stage. But be better, folks. When you go out there and celebrate, I don't care if you go to a venue, no matter where it is, be better, do better. The best thing that you want is to represent your city well. And it was a cold day. I remember it because even in 2017, it was probably as cold as it was that we saw there on Friday. And they delayed it so that you don't have to worry about the snow or the rain or, the chilly air temperatures. But it always takes one or two, unfortunately, just do something dumb. What happened to number 86 with Becca? Well, she was unfortunately taken out. Amber Balkin, unfortunately, had a tire that went down the second time around. The first incident, she got loose going down towards the apron and unfortunately caused the wreck the first 5 laps into the Arkham Menard race on Saturday. And then the second time around, it was apparently a tire that was going down, and it went down, and what it seemed like, I believe, and we'll find out soon. Hopefully, Becca, at one point or another, she'll be able to talk when she's not as busy. But she had stated that a tire may have possibly gone down and being cut down. I believe Dylan had said the same thing as well, that there was a tire that went down. And unfortunately, what just in my opinion was, as the car is running up the track, most people know, especially on the embankment at Daytona, that car eventually will work its way down. Now, with that being said, maybe the spotter thought that Amber was going to stay up on the track, say it looked like they told Becca to go low. And unfortunately, when Amber was coming back down the track, unfortunately, it took Becca out, and then she got hit for a second time. The car, unfortunately, is a complete loss, which is devastating to City Garage Motorsports. And I'll get in more into it with Stuart, hopefully, here as we have our segments on Wednesdays. But listen, their first year in Arkham Menard, despite everything that went on, I mean, when we went up there in January, practiced the way it happened, the car set up the whole 9 yards. They really wanted to have an outstanding race. And as I mentioned to Stuart early on, was that even if they didn't get a top 10, as long as a car was able to finish and be as scratch-free as possible, I'm pretty sure the team would have figured out that was a solid win, a complete solid win. Unfortunately, that's not the way it went. The car was totaled. Thankfully, Becca is okay. I checked up on her yesterday. She said that she was sore, more so sore on Saturday, but yesterday she started feeling a little bit better, not as sore. So that's really good. And that's thanks to because NASCAR has tried to do everything possible to make it safer with the cars. As you guys, if you stayed up last night and watched the end towards the Daytona race, that one also had by car number 60, Presser, who was driving the car, he went a weird airborne where the car basically did a wheelie and then ended up going end over end, going up the embankment, flipping over and come back down. And even he walked out of the car, which is absolutely insane. But because of deaths like Dale Earnhardt, Adam Petty, NASCAR has learned, and the safer burial walls. Let's not, first of all, a huge shout out to NASCAR and the team that created the safer burial walls, because you guys remember when the late great Dale Earnhardt had passed away, when unfortunately he was hit by Sterling Marlin, which shot him up the embankment into turn 4. That impact, because you're talking about a car doing, from 193 to possibly 198, that is a hard impact. And the cars were not made the way they are today, and unfortunately ended up taking Dale's life. But because of all that stuff going on, the Hans device, now how they have basically the driver's head in between what looks like just straight cushioning, and that's to kind of absorb some of the impact. But you can even see where some of the drivers, I mean, you're closing your eyes because you're bracing for impact. And it's funny because you hear two ways. One is the mention of bracing for an impact is a lot worse than if you leave your body loose. But a natural human reaction is what? Is to brace for an impact, which a lot of times can hurt the spine and your lower back, and you're alone with your vertebrae. Now, as NASCAR continues to improve on all this, the only thing that kind of caught my eye last night, and I'll get back into it with the Arkham and Art series, but last night the big thing was that we're waiting for, and my wife was watching the race with me, we're waiting for the rear roof flaps to basically pop up, which could have possibly prevented from the car going end over end. That is the now second year in a row for that particular driver to have, could have been truthfully a fatal accident. And they got rid of the grass at the end of Daytona race in the summer and then put all the asphalt because of what had happened the year before. And NASCAR figured, okay, maybe now it's a little bit safer. The bottom of the car, if you guys have noticed as well, it's basically protected a lot of it for aerodynamics and also for parts that go flying around. Because we used to see before, like axles used to go flying up in the air. Some parts of transmissions, when the car would end up busting into a million pieces. They've made it better, and the whole reason behind it is to try to make it better for the drivers and the safety awareness. But you're talking about a split second, 189 to 194 miles an hour. I think the top speed could get up to 198. Obviously, with the restrictor plate, it's taking it down for what used to be 212 plus. But nonetheless, when these guys and girls get into these accidents, all you can do is pray for them. And Presser, as they mentioned yesterday, that the only thing that he had thought about prior to flipping in over end was about his daughter. And you could tell he probably wanted to shed a tear. And listen, if he did, it would have been fine, because I don't think anybody's going to make any fun of him. Because again, you got to think about when you're single, it's different. Not saying that it's okay if you pass away. We don't ever want anybody to pass away, but it's different because you don't have you have your family, meaning your mom, dad, and other folks. But when you're married and you have children, that's the big thing. The children affects your lives because you want to make sure you're always going to be there for them. So thankfully, he was able to walk away. And that is in part to, as NASCAR continues to evolve and learn and grow, even though I'm not a fan of segments. I mentioned that many times with you guys before, but I do like how NASCAR is doing things. And you can see throughout the race, a lot of times too, as the guys were bumping each other, going down, whether it's the front straightaway, and more of the back straightaway as they're going to turn 3 and 4. You can see sometimes the front roof flap kind of letting the car not obviously lift up too much. And also now the way it's designed, there's 2 airflows that come in through the front hood. And I think NASCAR did that to try to prevent from the cars going airborne as well. And then obviously the front one that goes right into towards the manifold. So it's just, there's improvements that are made by NASCAR. Are they done improving these vehicles? Of course not. They're going to keep doing what they do to make these cars a lot safer. But thankfully, no one yesterday between the ARCA Menard Truck Series, the Xfinity, and obviously from the Cup Series, no one was seriously hurt. Everybody was able to get out the car and walk away. The tough one, I think, out of everybody was Helio Castroneves, because not only did he, unfortunately, was wrecked on Saturday from the ARCA Menard Series, but then he gets wrecked out yesterday. And I feel bad because the guy has such a tremendous fun attitude, but you could just see the disappointment on his face because of being a new race team and him coming over to the series where he's getting towed by the wrecker in the car. And you could just tell it wasn't one of those afternoons that he wanted. Let's see now. Rick says his follow-up question was, down by Spring Garden Street away from the parade. Yeah, that's what I heard too, but it's still, I mean, they're still going to add to it. So it's dumb. It should never happen. Joey B says, let's go to the parade with a gun. What the hell is going on with our society? Unbelievable. Yeah. Unfortunately. So we shall see. Duncan Dad, what's up, CGM? And Joey B says, Deb watching NASCAR with Angel on a Sunday afternoon, evening, Americana. How many Cokes did Angel drink during the rain-delayed race? Plus or minus 4.5? Well, Joey, to answer that question, absolutely none. So I guess it would be minus 4.5. I didn't have any. Did that for the Eagles game, but when we're home, truthfully, it's mostly water. That's what I end up drinking the most here at the household, or coffee, one or two, whichever one is better. But yeah, no Cokes. That's usually when I go out somewhere, and it's not all the time. So I'd rather have it in moderation where you end up enjoying it a lot more, like some people do with their alcohol. Joey B follows up with Angel's thoughts on how NASCAR pre-race show is mirroring what F1 does. Kind of telling. Michael Waltrip on his own pre-race pit row frenzy, interviewing as many people as he can, look like the F1 show. Yeah, Joey B, they've been doing it, especially with Michael Waltrip. They've been doing that now for a couple of years. And yes, it does seem a lot like F1. And they've got to make it interesting because NASCAR has either done well, and we all know when the Winston Cup was around, even I think when it became the Sprint Cup Series, it was a really good product. And then they started changing things. The cars got changed. You had the original car of tomorrow, which wasn't a fair advantage to anybody because everybody was basically running the same exact race. There was no different setup. Basically, different paint scheme, different number on the car. All the cars ran alike. You didn't have one manufacturer was not better than the other one during that series that they brought it out. And also, if you guys remember too, the driver seemed more towards the center of the car. And that was because that was one of those first protocols. Excuse me for a second. That was one of those safety protocols they were trying to figure out when they were making the new road cages, was to see the different impacts on the car. So those thankfully didn't hang around too long. I just didn't like it because none of the teams stood out. Like everybody just looked the same. Now with the new concept cars that are out there now, it's better. Some people like where the numbers used to be on the center of the door. Now they have it forward of the door. And a lot of it's because of the sponsor they end up having. And again, listen, things are going to change as times have changed. The numbers are still up on the rooftop. So some people are they're going to like what they see from NASCAR, and some people are just not going to end up liking what they see. The good thing was, minus the first rain delay, they kind of showed part of the duels as they were waiting and trying to figure out what they were going to do next. And when you're live anywhere on an event, especially something like NASCAR, it is very, very difficult to try to come up with, because they don't know. They have to depend on the weather. So there's so many factors that go into it. Then they have to figure out, okay, when do we bring out the air dryers? If it's going to rain again. So now you got to figure out how are we going to do this for airtime? What are we going to end up doing? So I thought coverage-wise, I thought they did the best they could possibly do. Being how long the delay to the second part of the race again after the initial one, after a second delay, I mean, they had some good footage. I like personally Michael Waltrip. I think he's a riot. And I'm glad he was with Dale Earnhardt Incorporated prior to basically calling it a career. And when they sat down, I think they went to a breakfast spot, I think it was, where I thought it was interesting. And you can make your own pancakes or making your own breakfast. I know a couple of guys had stated that they didn't like that they had to cook their own breakfast. But you know what? It is what it is. And I'm quite sure some people had fun with it and some people didn't. But speaking about racing, who sounds like he's rambling on his phone there. Dylan, what in the world's going on with your phone?
I put you on speaker. I was on Bluetooth, but I'm on speaker. And I'm in my car, so.
All right. Well, listen, you were up there on over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It seemed to be a good race for Saturday. And I know there's a lot of people when it comes to the ARCA Menard race, some folks, and there were brutal comments for Amber because they felt like the first wreck, could you say she caused it? Yes, because the way the car was handling on the apron, but it also seemed like a lot of cars too didn't have a lot of good handling on Saturday. And I know it was windy. A lot of times the wind is affected as well. And these are drivers that are trying to come up to the next part of the circuit. Then from there, they move up to the Craftsman Truck, then over to the Xfinity Series, and eventually up to the Cup Series. But what, from your perspective, and I know you didn't have, obviously a bird's eye view, but after lap 5, to start off ARCA Menard and all these guys, these teams that are putting so much money into their cars, what was your thought into the first wreck? And I guess the follow-up will end up being, in your opinion, was Amber ready for this ARCA Menard race?
Well, two questions, or two. I'll give you two answers. Number one, Amber, I do believe, was ready. Amber is a, I don't want to say a veteran because, she is relatively young, but she's been around ARCA long enough to basically be prepared. Sometimes it's the car, sometimes it's just, things out of your control. But I do think she was prepared for this race. I'm not, I won't take that away. She was in a very strong entry by Nitro Motorsports. If anybody knows who Nitro Motorsports is, they're a team that's kind of done a lot of different forms of racing, but they have a really strong group that they have in terms of their NASCAR ARCA efforts. So I do think she was ready. And yeah, in terms of the incident that happened, definitely disappointing. I mean, obviously you never want to see that happen on the first lap, but, a lot of these teams, especially up front, when you have a lot of young, hungry drivers, some of whom are, this is kind of their opportunity to make it back into, the main national series, if you will, the main 3 national series, or even for drivers to make their name and such. A lot of these guys are hungry and they want to go after winning at Daytona. And, some guys get a little bit too antsy at the beginning of the race. It's a lot of emotions, a lot of pressure. So kind of not surprising that it happened, but definitely disappointing to see as many cars as it took out, because it really began to take the complexion of the race. It really shaped the complexion of the way the race ended up playing out. So definitely disappointing the way it happened.
There was a lot of folks, because you had, what am I? I'm drawing a blank here. Who's our, why am I drawing a major blank here? Not Cletus McFarland.
Yep, Cletus McFarland.
So a lot of folks wanted to see Cletus, obviously, and so following the comments about Amber, and then people saying like, "Oh, she caused a second wreck." From what was being, from what we're understanding was it was a tire that was going down, and unfortunately, it ended up taking out the other part of the field. But a lot of folks were upset because they felt like Cletus should have gotten a second chance, another opportunity coming up here for another race. He was in good spirits afterwards. I mean, I think he had fun on broadcast afterwards with Jamie Little. Once he was cleared from the Advent Health in-care facility. But there's just, it's tough. We're not, you and I will say, not everyone else, but you and I, we're not drivers, meaning we're not in the ARCA Menard series. So we don't know what goes on.
Yep.
It just seemed like a lot of the handling on Saturday, and this is why I'm not harping on Amber, because I'm quite sure she felt bad for what went on. But you can just tell as these cars were going down, especially down the back part of Daytona on the backstretch, The handling, I think, was probably the worst that we've ever seen, at least in a couple of years. And that also kind of transpired too with Daytona, because even though they ran pretty much three wide for a good portion of the Daytona race, you can still see a lot of drivers had a difficult time trying to handle the car.
Yeah, ironically enough, Thad Moffitt actually mentioned about this on one of the news outlets that was covering the race, and he had said that it did seem like the cars are a bit tough handling. He just seemed like that they're a bit difficult to handle, but um, you know. Yeah, so I mean, and when you have a lot of guys or drivers who are again young, maybe inexperienced at Daytona, you have some drivers who may have never raced at Daytona before in their career, so it's a different beast when you get to Daytona. I mean, everybody says, "Oh, just gas it and go." I mean, that is part of it, but you also have to work with the draft, and there's a lot of things and a lot of components that go into racing at Daytona that you're kind of learning especially if you're a new driver. So when you add the aspect of being inexperienced and learning this track and not having qualifying didn't help because there was going to be group qualifying, so you could have had the draft and stuff, and then practice. Every team's doing their own thing. It can be challenging if you don't have a drafting partner and you're really not getting any data on that aspect of things. So yeah, it definitely seemed like the cars were a bit hard to handle for some drivers. So again, it's just sometimes the package that these teams create, it can be a bit maybe they made it a little bit too loose, or maybe made it difficult for the driver to handle, and it did seem like we saw a lot of that over the weekend. So
now, once Becca was cleared and she came out, I'm pretty sure, like everything else, and everybody gets naturally you get worried because you want to make sure that your team driver is fine. And we saw the pictures afterwards in the garage where that whole front of that car was just completely gone. And I felt bad for Stewart and crew because I know that they were hoping to walk away from this race, hopefully with, like, if any, minimal damage to the car so they can get ready for Talladega. But how was Becca after she came back to the garage?
Yeah, I mean, overall, she was okay. She was icing her legs. Obviously, she said she was sore on her social media page. She sent that out to everybody on social media. Overall, she's okay. Obviously, definitely disappointed, I imagine, and I didn't really get a chance to chat with her much after the incident happened, but I did chat with her well after the race had ended, and everybody was getting ready for the Xfinity race, and I was about to head over to the press box area and talk to Becca a little bit, and definitely just disappointed for sure. You could tell on her face that she definitely wanted to be able to run the full race, and obviously she was doing such a great job, and I just told her, I was so proud of her, of what she was able to accomplish. She looked really incredible out there. She was running very strong and definitely had a real shot of at least contending, especially with the way the race turned out. If she was able to make it through the incident clean and didn't have what happened, I definitely think we could have been seeing Becca out towards the front. And again, just so proud of what she's able to do and representing NASCAR and really the state of Florida as well, very proudly and strongly. And she's going to do great things the rest of the year. So really happy to see her do well, and really proud of what she was able to accomplish.
Yeah, it was good to see her walk away from the incident because, again, we saw her when she got out the car, obviously bring the net down. For those who don't know, when the net comes down inside the vehicle, they're basically letting the officiating crew out there at NASCAR, especially folks who come out there for EMS services, is that they're okay. If the net stays up, sometimes it takes a moment for obviously the driver to get himself or herself composed to figure out what's going on. As we saw with Ryan Preece, and I don't know if you had the opportunity of seeing that, Dylan. I know, again, you were up there, but I don't know what time you guys end up leaving. But Ryan Preece, for his second year in a row, goes airborne. And as much as they try to make these cars a lot safer, it was probably the most bizarre wreck that we've ever seen, where the car did a wheelie, and I'm talking about for maybe a good 20 yards, and then decided to shoot up in the air and took such a hard tumble going into the turn that I am so surprised that Ryan once again had walked away. But he had mentioned that while the impact was going on, the only thing you could think about was his daughter. But I don't know if did you have the opportunity of seeing the wreck?
I did. I didn't see it. I didn't see it like in real life, if you will. I will say this. I saw it on a TV screen. Actually, ironically enough, I saw it off of Eric Jones's pit box TV. And yeah, that was a rough wreck. I mean, the way he lifted off the air, basically it looked like, I mean, they described it perfectly. It was like an airplane taking lift. It was really wild. Yeah, I mean, NASCAR's I will say this, NASCAR has to find a way to figure out what they need to do in making these cars less amenable to flipping in these races, because this has happened way too many times. There's been too many situations like this. I mean, I remember when the first flip happened in the next gen car. It was with Harrison Burton back in 2022. And, at the time it was like, wow, I haven't seen a flip in a long time. This is kind of crazy. But now it's just become such a common occurrence that it's almost becoming a concern, and it is a concern. I mean, Ryan Preece said it even as well. He's lucky to be able to be coming out of the car alive. I mean, it was a very hard incident. Stuff like that. I mean, obviously everybody knows what happened with Dale Earnhardt. Which, by the way, Fox is awful. They put the Dale Earnhardt crash in like one of their video montages. Yeah. I'm sorry, that was an awful PR move. I don't know who decided to do that. That was dumb. But anyways, nevertheless, not going to go too crazy on Fox or anything. But I mean, overall, yeah, NASCAR's got to address this. This has to be something that they got to figure out how to make these cars much more safer, much more, again, amenable to not being flipped, basically. It's got to be something that they got to fix quickly.
You're going to have to. You're going to have to, because, again, the only and I agree, I don't know who let that one slide. There's no reason to bring in Dale Earnhardt's wreck into something like, they want to show him celebrating, obviously, hoisting his arms up, 20 years of trying. And Kyle Busch, I felt so bad for Kyle Busch as well, because it was his 20th attempt. And you can just tell the old Kyle Busch would have probably just went off on the cameras as soon as he came out of the care center. But he tried to stay calm. I know there was something afterwards written up on him saying that, he didn't agree with what went on. There was too much aggression, in my opinion, towards the very end. You had a couple cars that were taken out. JGR, who had some good cars going up there. You had Denny Hamlin was up there, and also with Christopher Bell. But I did not understand, for the life of me, the beyond aggressive move that was made towards the end of the race. And I get it. I understand it, as most race fans do, that you're not going to wait until the very end to figure out what your next move is going to end up being. But Cole Custer, I thought, was way, way too aggressive. You took Bell out, you sent him out of the way, and you have Centric and Hamlin, who were going 1-2, going into basically was going to be a green-white checker. And you end up taking them out because the aggressive move came in, which then opened the door for William Byron to go up top, along with Taylor Reddick, to be able to go in there, and they allowed him to race for the finish. But I just think, if and I'm pretty sure Custer was told that, hey, by the way, the 20 car, they don't like to be shoved from behind because the car doesn't handle well. Well, it seemed like he didn't care, because he did everything he possibly could other than bulldoze his way out towards first.
Yeah, and by the way, that last wreck, how they didn't throw a caution out was insane. That was just such a bad boom by NASCAR. So many people were complaining about this weekend about just like NASCAR's timing this and consistency of throwing out the caution, and for them not to throw the caution on that final lap is insane. I mean, the wreck was worse than the one that happened at the duels on Thursday, and for them not to throw out a caution and basically not keep up with the consistency, I mean, it wouldn't have changed the finish most likely, but for them to not throw out the caution, it was kind of crazy. I mean, that was a wild decision by NASCAR, and that's got to be rectified as well. They have to have more consistency on that.
They're going to have to. They really are. They're going to have, there's going to be, I think, more questions raised this week as they're heading into Atlanta more than anything else. Because again, you can't, and don't get me wrong, I understand it. For many years, we all know this, rubbing is racing, but there comes a point in time where you are putting people's lives into stake here, because the 41 car could have checked up just a little bit more, and he wouldn't have. He knew he wanted to get the 20 car out of the way. It was inevitable, no matter what. And it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because Bell, thankfully Bell did not go airborne, but if anybody would have taken a hard lick, would have been Christopher Bell. To me, he would have at least gone end over end about 15 times the way that whole collision has started. And then to take out the field leaders, and you had Joey Logano, by the way, too, who had trouble earlier on, changed out one of his modules. Then to come to find out there was a plastic bag that went into the intake. When he finally get it out, here he is towards the end of the race. Like, he had a legitimate shot of winning the Daytona 500, along with Kyle Busch and others. And then just because you, as the individual, you want to go out there and just push everyone out of the way, now you take out a field of dominant guys that were waiting towards the very end. Because we even heard how Kyle Busch, they kept telling him on the radio, hey, save fuel, save fuel. And he was trying to do the best he possibly could so he can make the run to the very end. So I think this week's meeting with NASCAR and along with the drivers, there is just going to be a lot of things that NASCAR is going to have to figure out and do better, because looking at what happened in Daytona, there's going to be a lot more questions than there will be answers, but they do need to figure out how to make these guys understand they have to be safe. Yes, there's nothing wrong with obviously trying to be persistent and go up front, but at the same time too, do not try to kill the opposing drivers.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy the way it ended up playing out. And I mean, again, consistency is key, right? That's what makes, we talk about this in the NFL, we talk about this in other sports. I mean, even in the MLB and in any sport, consistency is key. Being able to, call the right calls on penalties, or even in this case on, cautions, and just, if you're not consistent, it makes the sport look bad. And that's kind of what happened with NASCAR this weekend. So, yeah, we'll see what ends up happening going forward. And, it's going to be an interesting week ahead. Obviously, Atlanta's this week, and another super speedway race. The first three races are all winnable races for drivers. Daytona this past weekend for Byron. Atlanta this weekend is a super speedway track. That can go in any favor. And then you have next week following is at COTA. So let the games begin, if you will, to open up the season. Anybody can win these first three races.
I think so. But the last question I have for you, because I know you're off to a meeting here, Dylan, but when it comes to, how Major League Baseball, the NFL finally have gotten it right, or at least figured out that obviously if they want to go to the West Coast, they set up their schedule accordingly. NASCAR needs to start looking at that as well, where it's not like, here you have Daytona, then you have Atlanta, and then poof, you're off to the West Coast. If you're going to do something like that, they really need to start looking deeply, like what makes the most amount of sense logistically, and then just have all your West Coast races basically in a row, where you don't have to worry about these haulers having to come across country again, even though some teams obviously have multiple ones. But you don't want, the last thing you want is obviously the guy or girl who's leaving out of North Carolina, make their way to Arizona, then the one who is there at Atlanta, which eventually would go up to the race car, up to the shop, and then getting themselves to their next destination. I just think NASCAR has to start doing a better job on scheduling.
Well, I like the way the schedule is this year, with it being Florida, Atlanta, and then COTA. I think that's a bit more reasonable compared to what they did, where they had Daytona and then go out to California like they've done the last couple of years. So I like the schedule the way it is right now. I think this is good for travel purposes. The first 4 weeks have been all on the East Coast, and first 3 weeks, I should say, and then you have COTA. So we'll see what ends up happening going forward with the schedule. We'll see how they change it. The NASCAR is trying to be more mainstream. They're trying to bring on more road courses and other style tracks. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. It should be interesting. But Dylan, thanks for taking the time calling in this morning before you got into your meeting. Anything else you got going on?
I got school right now, so I will be on my way to class. So
All right, Dylan. We will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. And speaking to someone here who's taking the gracious time to come on with us here live on Sports Radio 102.9, it is the driver of the Storm car, number 86, Becca Monopoly. Becca, first and foremost, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm a little bruised up in a few places, but I felt better today and yesterday more than I did on race day. And after the wreck, my legs gradually started hurting more and more, and I ended up going back to the infield care center. Um, they just they ended up giving me some ibuprofen ice packs. There wasn't really anything that they could do, but no, I felt worse after it happened than I do now, so I'm good.
Well, that's good to hear because again, for those who watch from afar or even from near the track, there, the important thing was seeing how that car. And I'm glad that NASCAR has really taken safety into priority first. But I know they can still do much better for you guys and girls out there on the track. To watch the first hit didn't seem to be as bad, even though it's still jarring. But that second one that you end up getting after the initial one, to see the way that car was afterwards, and you were able to walk around the car and make sure you put the net down so that the medical attention folks know that you were safe. But I'm glad you were able to walk away because that was quite nasty by the time it was all said and done.
Oh, both hits felt about the same. Force wise, and it doesn't look it. And of course, the cameras weren't on us, and there wasn't a better overhead shot of it. And you only see the slow mo of when I hit Craig the second time,
Right.
and he actually ended up going to the hospital from it. So I'm very lucky that I was able to walk away from it. And actually, after the car finally stopped, I had a second to mentally examine myself that I'm not hurt. First thing, I just got on the radio and said, "Mom, I'm okay," because I know my mom's watching it on the big screen and that she's probably freaking out. So I let her know everything's good, then talk to the spotter for a minute and let everybody know, and I'm unplugging, getting out. But they were the hardest hits I've ever had. I mean, it's not saying a lot. It's Daytona. You're doing 170 when you collide with someone, but there was a lot of force there. I bounced around all over in the seat. It was crazy how hard it was.
Now, here's a $1 million question because I've been wondering this myself. Your spotter's trying to do the best they possibly can to get you guys girls to avoid an impact. And when we saw Amber going up, and a lot of us know if you're going towards the embankment, obviously the car will go up the embankment when you eventually come down. Did your spotter basically try to get you to go lower so you can avoid it? Or was it just kind of one of those points where you were just kind of stuck in the middle?
Yes, I was told to go low. And I was relying on him because there's really no exaggeration. You can't see through that smoke. And I've always watched it and seen videos and oh, I'm sure the driver can still see more than what you can see on a camera. No, when that smoke fills up the track, you cannot see anything through it. So I just relied on him and went low, and that hole closed up before I could get to it, and it ended our day.
It's rough because that's not the way we wanted the season to start off. By the way, in case you guys are joining us, Becca Monopoly, the driver of number 86 for City Garage Motorsport, owned by Stuart Weiss. It's tough because everybody was looking forward to this season. And especially if, as I mentioned to Stuart, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned it to you as well, is that as long as you guys were able to finish with a minor scratch, it would have been a win. I said to Stuart, I hope that you guys, if anything, would have gotten a top 15, at least a top 10. The win would have been the biggest one, depending on how the race would end up turning out. But now it comes back to the point, Becca, where you guys have to figure out, the car being destroyed at this point is either A, if you'll be able to get down to Talladega, but the good thing is there is still the second car, which is Sadie, that should be available for Pensacola. But, other than getting your health back, and for those who don't know, Becca Monopoly, a very accomplished driver in the truck series, had won just a race just before the Arc Menard series. And so looking at going forward for Talladega, I know it's going to be a hard stretch. Is there, I would say, maybe a 40% chance that there could be a car available for Talladega?
There's a chance. There's some optimism that we'll have another car by then. I don't know what the plan is quite yet with everything happening so soon. But I'm hopeful. I feel like after this past weekend, I have some unfinished business. I feel like I started a task and I haven't finished it yet. It's like I want to finish the race. I still have time to go after getting out on, what was it, lap 18.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we had all our supporters there with Orlando Health and Grable Rescue, Forestry Future Inches, Flora Lawn, Crisdell. All of them were out there, and it's just we wanted to have a solid finish for all of them, but I mean, that's super speedway racing for you. And it wasn't anybody's fault. I mean, I talked to Amber in the ambulance on the way to the in-care center, and her tire was going down, and she was trying to get down on the backstretch to come in, and before she could, it blew. And I mean, it's not her fault. I mean, and that's one of the tough parts is social media now. Everybody that has anything to say that have probably even never sat in a race car, let alone at this level, is blaming her, and it's not her fault. And it's a tough part about being a female in this sport, but it is what it is. And but we're hopeful to get back out there. I mean, we got 5 flags coming up next month with Sadie, and hopefully we have a plan and something set to get us back to Talladega, and I want to finish all them laps this time.
No, and listen, I don't blame you. You brought up a good point too about as far as social media, because there was some of the comments were absolutely brutal. And I think a couple of folks went back and erased some of the stuff they posted up there. But, it is tough because, Jamie Little, there was complaints about because it seemed like a lot of folks said, well, it's not because it's all women. Now all of a sudden the sport has completely changed. Jamie Little has been around for years. It's not like it's her first go around. So Jamie's been around, who I thought did a good job yesterday with Benny Parsons and crew, to get, well, not yesterday, excuse me, for Saturday, to be able to get everybody ready. And Amber is also an accomplished racer as well, being from Canada. But it's funny how I understand any time when we watch something on TV, you don't know because we're not in the car, just like you stated. And we had no idea there was a tire going down. And I think that was one thing they were trying to clarify. But Amber was getting, for the most part, all you guys were just getting hammered. And I thought, okay, listen, I goof around with you the same way I do with Stuart. I want to race the car. Now I can't race that one, so hopefully I'll be able to race Sadie. But,
Right.
It's just tough because there is a lot of scrutiny behind the sport, but it makes it worse when people want to post things up that they have no idea what was true or not. And I just felt bad because she was getting absolutely hammered and no one knew except for you guys that were directly on the track.
Right. And I'll even vouch for her because right before the wreck, when we were going through 3 and 4, I saw the smoke come off her. And I had just about told them on the radio, Amber's blowing up. And then I'm like, well, probably not that. She probably has a tire rub. And I mean, she's on the outside. There's no pulling down at that point for her to get out of the way on the track. So that was not an option. And her next option is get down on the backstretch where you normally would. And before she could, it blew. But that tire rub was from the caution beforehand that they were still giving her a lot of slack for because spinning off of 4. Well, look at the truck race on Friday night or Thursday night. There was 2 other wrecks off of 4 that were by the males. They're just hitting a certain spot out of 4, and the announcers were saying it too, that the truck frees up. There's a little bump there. It loses traction and it snaps on you. And it happened to her too, but because it's a girl out there, then it's everybody up in arms. It's happening to multiple people there. It's just there's more of a scrutiny and more of a spotlight on the females, and it's not fair, but I mean that's what happens with a male dominated sport, but it's not going to stop us.
No, it's not. And for all fairness, for those who, and I've gotten to know Becca, it was a lot of fun. We were up there in January for practice. I don't see, and it's nothing, believe me when I say this, it's not because I know Becca and it's not because she's a female. When you talk to Becca, and when we were out there for Orlando Health out in Lake Mary, you don't see Becca as a female per se. When you talk and you interact is as a driver. So though, to me, as far as the male-female thing, that goes out the window for me, Becca, because your experience and the ability we have to talk to you, we hear the driver coming out of you. It's not, anything because how you're raised or anything else. It's just the driver in you that comes out that we all hear. So I don't ever see you male or female. It's just you, the professional that's out there on the track and have the opportunity of racing the car. But, hopefully, and I'm quite sure eventually people will come around and see that obviously, yes, there are a lot of females that have been in the sport and they will continue to be in the sport because the sport continues to evolve and grow. And for you guys, especially because, you do go through a lot of scrutiny. Hopefully people aren't as harsh. Come the next race, I know the next one coming up will be for Pensacola, but I don't think, for the most part, I think people should try to ease up a bit when it comes down to trying to rush to judgment, not knowing exactly what's going on. And I'm pretty sure Amber's going to appreciate you as well, mentioning about how you were already saying how her car was getting blown up. But Speaking of, because I know I only have probably about another minute or two with you, and thanks for calling in. The handling on the car for it seemed like the remainder of the race, and you had mentioned going into turn 4. That seemed to be kind of like one of the hard parts where the cars were wanting to go down to the apron, and then they were just almost like being slingshot back up on the track. How was the handling on car 86 before the accident happened?
Everything felt great. We made a couple adjustments after we did get to practice on Friday. It felt like it was a little high and had a little much air under the car, but we got that lowered and they loosened it up some, and everything felt fine for racing. So it was just, we wanted to finish. There was nothing wrong with it. There was at one point going through 3 and 4 in the race, I was passing someone on the bottom, and I felt like I didn't have enough room, and I kind of touched the apron a little, and I felt that wanting to slingshot back up the track too, but kept it under right there. But no, the car felt fine all day on race day.
Now, here's another question to you. As you were in the back of the pack, and everybody knows that we watched also on the Daytona race, and a lot of the experienced NASCAR drivers were also towards the back. One was because they wanted to try and save themselves as much as they possibly could, especially when it came to the fuel mileage, depending on how the caution would end up coming out. But being in the back, and we know a lot of times you hear that being basically after 25th back is where things can go wrong. Was the car being as far back as it was, and we didn't have the opportunity of seeing how well Storm was going to end up doing? Did you feel if you would have had the right draft partner, you guys would have been able to come eventually through the field and let's say ended up with the top 10?
I think we could have, especially with the race being a survival race. And like people were telling me at work when I got in, I turned the TV on, there's only 20 cars left. Where'd everybody go? I mean, just surviving the race, it would have given us top 20. I think we could have been further up than that. And we just had to be there for the end, for the last restarts. And I felt like each restart I did, I was getting better and better and staying closer to the pack in the drafting, but then we just got out too soon. But yeah, we definitely had a contending car to be top 15 at least.
Well, I'm very happy, and I'm pretty sure your mom and your dad as well, that everybody was really happy you walked away from the car. I know, Stuart, it's heartbreaking for you and for him because, again, it's not the start that everybody wanted. We were all hyped up and ready to go for the season. And listen, everything happens for a reason. We know that we were up there in January. There was an oil leak that happened. Thankfully, it happened prior to you hitting out on the track. But there's a learning lesson in everything. And this one was kind of a tough one because they even mentioned during the broadcast, it's not like you guys have the backup of car to be able to go out there, for the very next race. So I just hope that somehow or another, God willing, things will work out and we'll be out there in Talladega. One is because I would definitely love to be out there. That is a dream place for me to be able to go out to. And two, just to be with you guys. And as I mentioned to Stuart, I'd be more than happy to drive a bus filled with nothing but fans to go up there to Talladega because it would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. And of course, we could always use more sponsors, more partners that want to get on board, want to help get a new car up there. But any little bit helps. And we partnered up with the best Orlando Health car and great partners in the Florida Sheriff Youth Ranches and Grable Rescue and everybody else on board. So if anybody's interested, reach out to the team on Facebook or Instagram and we can get you on board with us. But no, our goal is to get back up and ready for Talladega. And I definitely want to. I just feel like I have unfinished business. I didn't get to finish the race, and I had so much nerves going into it and excitement. And then once I was out there on the track, it was, all right, cool, I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And then it's like, all right, where's the rest of the day? So I'm hoping to get fill that void in Talladega.
All right. And the final question I have for you, because I know you probably have to get back to work here and I appreciate the time, but what's next for you other than Pensacola? Is there something closer before the March race?
Yes, we'll be racing locally. I believe there's a race at Cordele in Georgia coming up, maybe the beginning of March. But I'm not sure what else is on the schedule. You can always check it out on Beck Monopoly Racing on Facebook, and we'll have the schedule on there, but I don't remember offhand where I am next.
That's okay. That's all right. And listen, as long as you're okay, that's the most important thing. Becca, thank you for your time this morning. I do appreciate it. I'm glad you're feeling better, and hopefully you won't feel as sore by the end of the week.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. No problem. All right. There goes Becca Monopoly, and we appreciate the time with her. City Garage Motorsports, as she had mentioned, yes, they're still looking for sponsors. If you guys want to listen, they would love to get another car up there in Talladega. And she's absolutely right. I don't think we had the opportunity to see how Storm was going to finish off. And I know Stewart was trying to do the best he possibly could to get this team set up for success, because no one sets themselves up for failure. And if you do, I don't know, maybe that's something you end up doing. But nonetheless, it was tough. It was tough to watch. It was good to see that she did walk away. As she had mentioned, there's a lot of soreness that went on with it. It was a hard impact that we can see. But more importantly, it was nice that she had defended Amber and let everybody know that she did see, because she was running right behind her, that there was a tire that was going down, or saying that, something was going to blow up. So I'm pretty sure Amber and a lot of folks would appreciate what Becca had just mentioned. So in the ARCA Menard series, not the way a lot of folks wanted to finish up the race. Butterbean Queen, though, ended up winning it. I thought his post-game one, and post-race, as I say post-game, I thought he had a great interview afterwards, and I believe I did have it up here on cue. And let's see if I can get it. He had a great time. Was thrilled to obviously make sure that everybody was safe, number one. But the other thing as well is that he wanted to let everybody know how much fun they end up having. And I'm trying to see if I'm trying to find the other race or the other finish. I will bring up Butterbean's interview here. And then after that, I will take a look and see if I can bring up the actual wreck. So for those who didn't watch the ARCA Menard series race, hopefully you guys end up tuning in. You could always go to arcmenard.com and check out the race lineup, what's going on. They have a short condensed season, but nonetheless, they're coming to a track near you. But here's Butterbean Queen with the post-race interview.
Queen is your winner for the ARCA Menard series race at Daytona. He's still unhooking himself. There he is. Amanda Busick is there.
Oh, and Jamie, and what it is, a scene down here. He's going to go greet his team. There's the American flag. He was asking for that as he was still on the track. He told his team, I don't know what to do now. His team effectively told him, bring it back down to the start-finish line and burn it down. Brendan Queen, winner here at Daytona. Brendan, they say that Daytona owes no one. Why was she yours today?
Oh my Lord, B Nation, baby! We brought the mullet to the ARCA series, baby. We're going to the Waffle House tonight, but all glory to God. Thank you for keeping us safe. I mean, I'm just a late model guy that worked hard to get this shot, and I didn't think this would be where the first win came, but we're going to take it. I got to thank the whole Staten family, bestrepair.net, everybody on board, that family that gave me this opportunity. Obviously, my parents did a lot when I was racing late models, but this group right here, they deserve this, baby. I know I had tough shoes to fill with Zilich taking over from Zilich, but I hope this makes them happy that they signed me, and I hope this is the first of many. But I got to thank also Driven Sunglasses for coming on board. I don't know where they went, but I'll be wearing them in Victory Lane. ARCA Series, Menards, everybody involved, Pinnacle Racing, the whole Webb family. I don't know. We're going to the Waffle House and we're going to party it up and some chocolate milk.
Butterbean Queen, your winner at Daytona.
Oh, man.
Butter.
I think it's the best thing. Who in the world would have thought he would have thanked, or at least talked about going to the Waffle House and having some chocolate milk? Listen, at the end of the race, I'm pretty sure it's thrilling, and everybody knows you start off with the ARCA Menard series, or for those who don't know, at least you start off with the ARCA Menard series, work up to the Truck series, eventually to the Xfinity series, and then up into the Cup series. Just excited as he was to be able to not only obviously finish, but I mean, he had just a great time. More post-race interviews that were going on with him, and it was a good time overall. But I want to see If I can bring up the one from yesterday, so those who are watching the show, and of course you can always go back and watch the replay and see exactly what we were talking about here. But I want to see if I can bring up the one from yesterday, where I actually showed the wreck from Becca, and that she ended up she was fine. Again, thank God she was okay. But I want to see if I can bring it up so those who are listening into the show here, I believe this may be it here. Yeah, I believe this is it right here. This is from Fox NASCAR yesterday. And I'm going to bring it up on the screen here now so you guys can end up seeing. This was the wreck yesterday. And again, you'll see the impact. You may hear it lightly on the audio, but the impact, so you guys can see what we were talking about. And it was a very, very hard lick. But it's good to know the reason why it happened, even though the other part of the field didn't want to go out. But here's how it happened yesterday.
You see, there's Amber. She makes contact with another car. And then, man, hard. That was Cletus that came along with nowhere to go. And Cletus slid up into the outs. Ooh, what a hard hit.
Yeah, so Amber, I mean, she was hit 3 or 4 times there.
Tough break for Amber. We know that right now this is her only scheduled race.
There's Craig Brackett hanging the inside safer barrier. And then another hit.
Those second
Becca.
and third impacts are the ones that get you. The first one you kind of see coming.
And you're stunned.
And another one right there.
Wow.
Gosh.
That was 3 hard hits in that incident for Craig Bracken.
Yeah.
Look at it at real speed here.
Saw Amber get free, spin up the racetrack. Just nowhere to go.
Ooh. You could hear that car hitting the inside wall.
And the reason why I mentioned, and I'll go back.
See,
to
there's Amber. She makes
contact
contact with another car.
When it comes to Becca, I know you guys. If you're listening on the radio, I'm going to try and give you the best color commentary I possibly can. Right now, at this point, Amber was already into the wall as the tire was blown. And she is starting her spin now. And Cletus McFarland, who wasn't that far away, ends up colliding with her. Becca was at least, I want to say, about 10 car lengths back. But understand when the wreck happens, it happens instantly. As she had mentioned, it's different when you're watching it on TV and you think you can end up clearing it. The only thing, unfortunately, the spotter probably thought that Amber was going to stay up high on the embankment, but she eventually ended up coming back down, which, as you heard from Becca, the spotter told her to come down, and unfortunately, she ended up getting into the wreck. So here, once again,
man, hard. That was Cletus that came along with nowhere to go.
Becca now starts coming into the picture, and the smoke is directly in front of her, which, as she had mentioned, she couldn't see a thing. If the spotter would have told her to clear high, it could have been a good possibility that she would avoid the wreck and she would have been fine. Unfortunately, things happen in fast speeds and you can't see. So now Becca's coming down the track, and this is pretty much a moment of impact where you can just see some of the smoke clearing, and you have Amber, whose car is coming now backwards off of, I believe it was off of turn 2. And you could just see now it coming down, and then she gets hit for the first time, and it was a hard hit. And then the Amber, second impact, which was just
3 or 4 times there,
as you're hearing the commentary in the background.
Tough
but
break for Amber.
At that point, Amber was stopped. But then you can see the 86 car just sliding across, and then the 02 bounces off the wall, comes back.
This is her only scheduled race.
There's Craig Brackett hitting the inside.
And as I stop it, I mean, it's probably one of the worst collisions that you can think of. So, Amber, other than Amber, you have Becca, who was hit hard, then gets hit for a second time.
Barrier, and then
pretty much destroyed the entire front end. And that's where I'll freeze it from that point. But it was tough. It was really tough for Stewart and the guys yesterday to see something like that. And again, I'm glad the first person she reached out to was her mom, because I had the opportunity of meeting her mom, her dad, when we were out there in January. And it was fun talking to them, but I couldn't imagine having my child in a car that obviously is doing between 160, 170, 180 plus, and then hoping that they're able to walk away. Once again, thanks to NASCAR, who they try their best to make these cars safer. And I'm pretty sure they're going to learn from this as well for their ARCA Menard series to see how they can improve the efficiency and the safety in these vehicles. All right. We have not taken a break. We are going to take a break here now for the first time this morning. Thank you to all. We hope those who are off today are enjoying President's Day. Let's not forget the presidents present and past that have done things here for the United States of America to make this the great country that it is today. So hopefully you're enjoying the time off. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget you can call in or text into the show at 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. When we come back, I'll give you the scores from lacrosse, as I mentioned it here at the top of the show. Also, the NBA All-Star Game that really no one is talking about for good reasons because it has become basically quite a joke. The NBA is going to have to go back into the draft room and figure out like what's going to make more sense going into the future. So with that being said, thank you all for listening to Martinez Company here live on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Hey, everybody. It's Pete Shepard from the Coastal Sports Network. Want to tell you about my good friend Lou DiMuzio and his company. Lou is the president and founder of ACE Technology Advisors. They're big-time tech specialists. At ATA, they're able to craft, implement, and manage the best and most appropriate solution for your business. They leverage their industry-leading experience and their portfolio of technology partners to improve your best practices and infrastructure. So you can get a hold of them at 888-599-4223. That's 888-599-4223. Check them out on their webpage, www.acetechadvisors.com. That's www.acetechadvisors.com. Or you can email them sales@acetechadvisors.com. Check out my friend Lou DiMuzio and Ace Technology Advisors.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey. Why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home. Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill? Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game app and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
All right, welcome back. I got to make a mental note. I have to upload my music all over again. It's just so much stuff that goes on here at the network. It's just extremely tough, but nonetheless, I try to make things work as best I possibly can. Also, stay tuned. There's going to be a couple of changes here. You guys will be able to follow it all on the website, sr1029thegame.com. Thank you all who have downloaded the app. If you have not downloaded the app yet, you can download it directly from the website. If you attempt to go and take it from the Apple Store or the Android Store, what you're going to find is the old app that used to be out there. After redoing the app, it is available on the website. And you can check it under the starting lineup or directly on the homepage. It says download our digital sports app. And therefore, you can also check out all these shows lined up there on the website as well. Pete Shepard starts us off in the morning from 7 to 10 a.m., originally from WEEI out there in Boston. And thanks to Pete, he's been on the network here, and we've been working together, working with each other for over a year at this point. So thanks to Pete in the morning from 7 to 10 a.m. Martinez coming here usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because of a couple obligations that I have. It'll be mixed in kind of in between, but I always keep you guys updated on the socials just so we know exactly when the show will be on and or off. Also followed by this afternoon will be my hermano Rich Quinones, the Drive with Q at 5 p.m. this evening from 5 to 6. Rich has been busy with boxing gigs. You guys had known that not too long ago he went down to 3 days a week because of so much boxing that was going on. Rich is back to being busy once again, not only with boxing, but now with the basketball league season getting ready to be kicked up underway. Because of meetings and things he's being set up, Rich will be back to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. And his schedule will flex a little bit because, again, boxing matches and obviously for the basketball league. So it's a real busy time for Rich, but you can hear him from 5 to 6 p.m. And, of course, you can always go back if you missed the show and visit it under starting lineup, under the instant replay. Later on this afternoon will be B's World from 6, maybe a little after 6, depending on sometimes my hermano goes a little bonus time, but from 6 to about 7:15, 7:30-ish or so this evening. We will have Kathy Hoekstra on at 6:15-ish or so. And then later on, possibly Jeremiah on with us at 7 o'clock. Jeremiah's trying to free up his schedule a little bit so we can talk about his season that's about to take off for his own basketball team. So Jeremiah should be on with us a little bit later on. And then even though football season is over, Lloyd Vance, Kevin Midget, Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, and it's always here on a Monday night at 8 p.m. till at 9:15. And then, of course, on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock is the Talking Hoops crew with Coach Mack, Coach Johnson, and Doc Riley. I'm quite sure they will get into a lot of the NBA talk, which has been, before I run the video here for the women's lacrosse team, the NBA, I want to say is kind of getting to the point of being shameful because no one wants to participate anymore. And this also goes to Major League Baseball as well, because the home run derby was not like the home run derby of past. A lot of guys, when you had the honor of representing yourself and your team at the All-Star game, a lot of people used to love it. And now some of these guys don't want to show up. And a lot of it comes down to contracts. A lot of it comes down to ages. They just feel like their athlete should not be participating and making sure he stay healthy. I personally, as I mentioned to Pete, did not watch not one part of the NBA All-Star game. Not one part. I just think it's an absolute joke of the way they do it right now. You got guys that were almost getting hurt jumping over a car, which I understand, the whole slam dunk contest was supposed to be because you're supposed to be like crafty and you're also supposed to be different from everybody else, but also the guys who get the nod for the NBA dunk contest, they don't participate either. And then come to find out that obviously LeBron James decided to scrap himself out from the game yesterday. I just think, it used to be the All-Star game when there was offense and defense used to be fun. Everybody looked forward to it in the middle part of the season, halfway through the NBA season. The tournament is an absolute joke. The ratings were disastrous for the NBA, and it's only year 2. So you can only imagine what's going to happen in year 3. No one likes the setup. No one likes this whole thing, the way they're doing it. Everybody dislikes when it comes to the floor. And the guys, even themselves, the athletes, have talked about how they don't like it because it screws up from where they are, how they set up their shots. So I don't know. To me, the NBA should be doing better. Anyways, let me get back to some of the comments here. Joey B says, Dylan, it sounds like he was on the back stretch. LOL. Yeah, that's when he was on the phone. That's Joey B. I tried. I try to get Dylan to sound a little bit better on the phone, but between a Bluetooth in his car and sometimes when he's walking and talking, it's just, he cracks me up. But anyways, Jay, speaking of beef, my man, LFG, he is coming on tonight at 6 o'clock. Nice work as always. Good show so far today. I do appreciate that, beef. Great schedules, show and content, hashtag CSN for Coastal Sports Network. And great call on the home run derby comp with the NBA All-Star game. Yeah, it is. It's become a joke. It's a shame too, because that's not the way the NBA used to be. And then if you guys had missed it, Adam Silver talked about becoming NBA Euro. I mean, we already hear about the Euro step, which is basically allowing you to travel by having 4, 5, 6, 7 step, and then finally making a shot. But if you can't fix the American product, what makes you think doing the NBA Europe is going to be any better? But again, what do I know? I just speak behind the mic. I'm not a multimillionaire and nor a multi-billionaire. So I just think the NBA needs to start doing better. And as far as the NBA, when it comes to the Sixers, I don't think Josh Harris is doing everything he possibly can to set up the Sixers for success. I know Marshall Time had put out a couple tweets at the end of last week mentioning about Joel Embiid. I mean, first of all, I think that was the silliest thing the Sixers could have done, was to offer an extension on a guy who can't complete a season. And then, if we're being completely truthful, doesn't even complete a postseason. So I don't know. And Josh Harris right now, too, is more concerned about his Commanders than he is about the Sixers. And I knew this kind of going into it, just in my own opinion. His focus of attention, basically, once he got the nod from the NFL to own the Commanders, that was going to be his focus, rather being the Sixers. But people still spend the money. They go out there, they go watch these games. In the end, it's up to the guys and girls on what they want to do. I don't know. I wish the Sixers would end up doing better, but you guys had heard me last week. I've already put in free agency paperwork for the Orlando Magic, the Miami Heat, the local teams around here, and even for the Boston Celtics, but I'm not going to Boston Celtics. I mean, I could, I guess, because my family's been up there for many years, but if I'm going to root for a team, I'll just root for the Orlando Magic, because the Sixers have become just disappointing. Duncan Dad says the NBA is too big. They outgrew the audience and overvalued the product post Michael and Kobe. True. And also, don't forget, Ain't That Right on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Speaking of Duncan Dad, if you guys have missed the first one, you guys can always go back and check out the replay. He'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. But no, you're right, Duncan Dad. It's too much. The NBA used to be so much fun. Everybody looked forward to it. And then just it's become a joke. And in all honesty, it's become a joke. The trades, I think the only one, and I wish I had the audio, that a person had talked about how the owner of Dallas had mentioned that she wanted to build a casino there in Dallas, and they told her nope. So she figured out, you know what? Okay, that's fine. I'll figure out how to build a casino. I'll just move the team to Vegas. And then they told her pretty much like a double no. It's not going to happen. So then she turns around and is like, all right, you know how I'm going to do this? Easily. I'll trade Luka. Eventually, I'll make my Vegas team, and I'll put Luka back with Dallas, but via Vegas. Smart. A very smart businesswoman. The way she did it. All of us were surprised. No one could believe the way that whole trade went down. But she did what she had to do to send a message to the NBA. Listen, if she knows exactly what she's doing, it's going to be interesting to see how it'll play out for Dallas in the next upcoming years. The other thing as well, by the way, as Jay says, free agent fan, yeah, listen, I'll take my talent somewhere else. I'll root for some other team, and I probably will go with Orlando. Orlando Magic are a very young team here in the NBA, and they're doing the right things. They're moving and shaking. That team will be in Vegas by 2030. It might be before that, honestly, Duncan Dad. I think it's going to be a lot earlier than that. At the rate right now the NBA is going, and don't forget that LeBron James has mentioned that he would himself like a team in the NBA. Will it happen? Who knows? But it could end up happening. Jay says Mavs stuff has been reported 100% what Angel is pointing out. Casino angle, gambling, etc. Yep, it's nuts. But she's doing it the right way. And we'll hear more about it this evening with Jay and his guest with Kathy. Dallas is a huge media market, total disaster. It is. The NBA will learn. They're going to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, we'll learn the hard way. All right. Now, before the show closes, as we have a couple minutes or so left here, and then later on this afternoon, as I had mentioned, the Drive with Q at 5 p.m. with my hermano, Rich Quinones. He will be on, and as I mentioned, also take a look at the updates on the website a little bit later on with a couple of changes that are going to be happening. Good changes, always good changes, nothing ever bad, and we do appreciate it. But let's see, we're going to take a look here. This is all the scoring that had happened on the lacrosse match on Friday for Valentine's. And something went a little squirrely here. Eventually, it'll pick back up. Don't know exactly what ended up happening, but anyways, and I'll try and get in and squeeze in as well, along with over on the parade. Listen, there was nothing funnier before I start playing this. There was nothing funnier than to listen in on Fox 29 and the broadcast and them mentioning, oh, and by the way, we apologize for what's being said. I thought it was absolutely hysterical the way they were talking about it, because they had mentioned, what was it? AJ Brown had cursed a couple of times. A couple of the guys said, listen, it's a celebration, right? Chase Utley had said world fucking champions back in 2008. And I remember, people were screaming and cheering and this, that, and the other. But then you had some folks who were like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. It was funny to hear Fox 29 constantly have to say, we apologize for that. What he meant to say was this. And I'm going to try and download it so you guys can hear, which is just, it was funny because every time they would say something, again, we apologize. I just thought it was hilarious. Overall, I thought it was a great parade. It was great to see a lot of the Eagles athletes that came off the bus and were celebrating with everybody. And listen, rightfully so, because that city only tries to make you better. They never try to revert backwards. They always try to make everybody better. So hopefully everybody had a great time out there. But here is the match from Friday against Lehigh University at Corbett Stadium. So here were the goals as they were per the match on Friday.
Quick movement. Bulls go high-low. Great action. And the Bulls respond with yet another goal. Lehigh, this is their strength with their team, that veteran lineup, but no answer this time. Bailey up over the top and rings it. Taglione goes low, and it works right through the wickets. A hard shot. Newton races in. Well, they work quickly. Nice movement with the stick, and it tips and gets in the goal. Bulls looking for a cutter up over the top. Tartaglione trying to cut into the inside, races through. And what a goal, what acceleration. Larry looks for Harbaugh, goes low. Quick action and movement by the Bulls. Here's the whistle. Hughes makes it look easy, doesn't she? George was thinking about going herself. Good defensive work. Harbaugh. And slips it. Looking for a cutter, come down the middle. Nice job by Maggie Newton. Nothing there. George looking for a cutter, slipping across. Sliding through for the goal. Shot clock winding down. 5 seconds. And how about that? The Bulls improve to 3-0 on the season.
Now, that's going to be followed by, if I can find it as well. And let me switch that back to over here. And again, we thank you all for tuning in today to Martinez Company live here on the Coastal Sports Network. That was from Friday night in the post-game, and here it is, the post-game presser on the pitch with Coach Minnie McCord. So here's what it sounded like after the game. As, like I said, there was a young lady just to the left of me on the pitch, and then from the conference, there was a gentleman who was recording the actual segment as well. So here's Coach Minnie McCord after the match on Friday.
So how does it feel now winning your third game of the season, not creating a 3-game streak for the team?
Well, it's great. We're building a lot of confidence. We're seeing a lot of different types of teams, which is good. And our first quarter of the season, our first 5 games, and we knew we would need to figure a lot out, and we're learning tons and tons. But I'm very proud of their efforts, the adjustments we made on the field in the third quarter. As you can see, statistically speaking, they only had 2 goals in the third and fourth quarter, and I think that's because we adjusted on the draw, and those possessions converted. So that was great game management. Players really came out to play, and they really play together. They love each other, and that's what I'm seeing out there is a lot of resiliency.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Third match of the season, Coach. If you guys go to Mercer, you take care of business. 11-8 was the final there. Close game, which it could have gone the other way, but it's good now. Third match under your belt. 2 wins at home. You got the streak going right now. Everything is going well for this team. What else can you improve just into the third match early on in the season?
Yeah, I think we have to have better shooting quality. That's one area. The number one thing is we've got to win 50-50 balls. Like, we've got to hunt for the ground ball in pairs and come up with more of those rebounds and possessions. Those are second chances for us. We didn't win the draw today. We lost by 1, but we were significantly down. So to be successful in that third quarter, when we get those possessions, they matter. We can produce on offense. Really happy with our ride. We put teams under a lot of defensive pressure as a full team ride, and it takes a lot of time off their shot clock, and I think that's been a huge advantage as full team defense.
That there seems to be, and you figure, so start off the game early on for Lehigh. The 1 goal was taken back, first one early on, 3 unanswered goals by USF, and then it just seemed like the pace kind of kept going from there. Got close towards the half, and then the edge came back to USF. It seems like the stronger quarters or stronger periods are your third and the fourth, but you have multiple team members, once again, with second goals, third goals, and then some teams you have Maggie Newton, Ava, who's coming up big early on the season, Juliana, who's also coming up big. So it seems like you have 3 of your leading ladies early on, scoring big and scoring often. So it seems like they seem to be the leaders for your team early on again in the match, and especially for early on here for the lacrosse season.
Yeah, I think what we have to be able to do is be unscoutable, right? Try to have more than 4 or 5 point scorers, because then it's hard to prepare for that many. And when some players might not be getting it done, players like Ava really stepped up today. And again, we have just such great diversity on scoring, so it's hard to really match up.
Well, I will say selfishly, just because the Eagles celebrated their second Super Bowl championship, so it was a lot of fun. But you guys have that mantra, that one team, one dream, and it seems to be working well. Who decided to come up with that one saying? And I was speaking actually with Coach Harbaugh earlier on when he said that he knew you, and that's the reason why his daughter came out to play for you guys as well. So how much has that meant so far? And I hope at the end of the season, you guys will be celebrating that one team, one dream.
Well, we had a wonderful fan do a video for us, and he was really inspiring, and he talked about that, like when you play as a team and you live your dreams together, you're playing for something bigger than just you individually. And so we just really kind of felt that would be, not a lot of people dream. We have goals,
correct,
but like dreams are different. Those are something big that you keep and store inside, and they have to move you, right? Your dreams, your why has to move you into action. And we just felt that if we played together as a team, not individually, and we kept our dreams like flying and going and just really believing in the big things for us, then we would probably put our best product forward.
Well, Coach, congratulations, 3-0 for its season so far early on. I would say we expect big things, but you know that. So now, what's the preparation going into match number 4 here at home?
So match number 4 gives us a really wonderful opportunity to match up against a top 5 school in the country with the Gators there. Just, one of the best teams out there, and, being able to see them early and see how we match up to a team like that helps us to prepare again, just this non-conference schedule, to be prepared to win conference championships. Like, that's what we're striving for ultimately. So, we're going to see bigger, faster, stronger, and we've got to be able to know what we have to do to be able to compete and match up to that. So we're excited, to be able to have a top 5 team come here and face them and, put our best, selves forward and compete.
So one thing that you heard from Coach McCord, from Coach, when she had mentioned that you want your team to be unscoutable. And the reason why I brought up that question is because you have a couple of the athletes already early on who have multiple goals in the game and also leading the team. Juliana George, Maggie Newton, also Ava Uphughes, who ended up coming up big. Allison Harbaugh, by the way, Coach Harbaugh was there to watch his daughter play on the pitch, and it was good to see him. Maggie Newton. There's some players, and Caitlin as well, that are really starting to step up early on for USF, the lacrosse team, the women's lacrosse team. And what she is mentioning is when the teams that are, like, for example, the Gators who are coming into town on Tuesday, you want it where it's going to be hard for them to figure out who is your lead scorer. Who's your second best? Who's your third best? You want it where everyone evenly is contributing to this team. And if you have the opportunity, please, there's still tickets available for Corbett Stadium on Tuesday night, 6 o'clock, will be the match number 4 for the season. But when you look back at it, you want to make sure that you have a well-balanced team. As she had mentioned, the only thing they lost in that game was coming off the draw. They weren't able to pull it off. They lost it by 1. But you watch this team as they play, and you would think they would have been around for at least, multiple years. There's a couple transfer reporters that have come in, and then the post-match, when they're on the field stretching, they're having themselves a great time, and they want to keep themselves loose as much as possible. But defensively, this team looks really well, and I want to say competitively, there should be no reason why, even though it's early on in the season, why this team cannot be there at the end of the season in the conference to possibly put themselves in a great spot for a national title, even though it's their first season coming in. As she had mentioned, is one team, one dream. And I liked it. That was actually a good message coming in. As they come in on their fight song, I think they also picked the right one too, coming in when they enter Corbett Stadium. So looking at individually here, so you guys can kind of follow what I'm talking about. Juliana George right now, 3 for 3. 8 goals, 4 assists, 12 points. She is leading the team all around. Maggie Newton, 7 goals, 2 assists. Also have played all 3 games. She has 9 points. Sophia Chepernek, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points. Allison Harbaugh, 4 goals, 5 assists, and 9 points. All these ladies, I think, except for possibly one, may have played. Julia Huxtable, who also, I believe, had recorded a goal as well on the match. Some other notables here. Ava is 7 goals, no assists, 7 points for Ava. Bailey Morris also had one as well, 6 goals, no assists for 6 points. And as I just mentioned, Caitlin, 4 goals, 1 assist. She has 5 points. Morgan Perry also had a goal. She had also 3 goals and no assists. And you have Grace Brukiwa, if I'm saying the name correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But again, this is what coach is talking about. For the ladies that she has on the team, she wants to just let everybody know that if you're coming to play USF, you don't know exactly what you're going to end up coming across. Also, offensively, do they put on the pressure? Of course. They're always mind the net. They're there. I mean, it's incredible to see how they end up interacting along with themselves and on the team. But then defensively, they're hard to score against. You're talking about, and I had it down earlier, the opening match for the inaugural home opener, 19-6 against Mercer, which ended up being the closest one at 11-8, and then Friday, 17-7. I mean, you're talking about a handful of goals that they have against, but 4, they have really kind of opened up the floodgates there. And at the end of the third, as I had mentioned, late into the third, going into the fourth, excuse me there for a second, but going into the fourth, this where it seems USF's stronghold has been. Early on, there was a goal, and I try to find out why it was not allowed. But Lehigh went up 1-0, and then that was taken off. And then USF went on to score 3 unanswered. But it's also the first time in school history earlier on where Lehigh was able to score 3 in a row, and that hasn't happened against USF earlier on to the season. But you had Angelina Pino, Shannon Nolan, and Casey Wines with all in the second at 4:02, 3:27, 1:47. Angelina, that was her second goal of the season for her because Lehigh just kicked off their season against USF. Shannon her first, Casey her first. The parents, the fans that traveled with Lehigh, you could hear them, and they were really vested into that match. I mean, they were going at one point or another, they were yelling out all good things because there was nothing negative, but just telling the team, let's go, hurry up, play up on defense. USF's defense is hard to score against. I don't know how Coach McCord has done it in a short amount of time. This team will be talked about more and more as the popularity of this team keeps going through. And I will say, as far as us here at the Coastal Sports Network, I am beyond happy to be covering this team, hopefully to be out there for every single match because not for nothing, but we try to provide as much coverage as we can possibly for this lacrosse team, and they well deserve it. These ladies are going out there and they're playing literally their minds off. I won't say the other word because then people think it's sexist or whatever case may be, but nonetheless, they're out there. They're playing with heart and soul. They really are. The post match is always fun because, again, stretches are very important after running up and down the pitch, but just the fun that they have afterwards. Matter of fact, I think I do have a clip of them just enjoying the post game. And let's see. Yep, here it is. They figured out it was a 3-0 mood. And this is like after every match. So here is, before I get ready to close out the show here was the mood, the post match there at Corbett Stadium. Here's the USF women's lacrosse team. It's short celebration, but they have a lot of fun, and it's good to see because it's exactly what you want to see. But when you enter the pitch, and I wish I had, and I don't think I have it here. Eventually, I'll make sure for the next time that I'll have available for you guys. But it's just coming in, the atmosphere. Coach McCord is setting up this team for success, and I can't wait to see how it ends up turning out for them. The same way with USF women's basketball. Coach has done a tremendous job. 480th win, 7-game win streak they got going on right now. And as I mentioned beforehand, the way they ended up with the triple overtime prior to Saturday's game, it's kind of giving you a preview of where this team could end up being as March Madness quickly approaches. And this time of the year, it's either the love-hate. One is some people hate because the NFL is coming to an end, But then you have the UFL season that's come back and apparently is going to continue to come back as they had meetings during the offseason. And then you also have arena football that comes up, indoor football league, depending on where you are in the country. So that ends. Baseball spring training begins. I know there's going to be a lot of people over at Clearwater Field, or excuse me, at Baycare Ballpark when the Yankees come into town. Some people actually love when baseball comes around. NASCAR starts to pick back up. And then you have basketball. As everybody knows, this is where people get more and more into it. In the college game, I hope nothing ever changes because people, I believe, enjoy NCAA hoops a lot better than the NBA. And it's because they've left well enough alone. The only thing the colleges are dealing with is the whole transfer portal thing. And again, it's just coming down to, because you got to think about it. These teams are trying to set themselves for success. And some coaches do not want to be a part of transfer portal, but it's here and it's going to be here to stay nonetheless. So I'm happy and excited to see, as I mentioned before, and I'll take a look one more time to make sure it is not, and I don't believe it is a sold out game thus far. I believe tickets are still available. You guys can go to gousfbulls.com, or if you go to sr1029thegame.com, not only can you go to USF from there, but you can also check out the latest content from USF, including from our network photographer, Alex Walworth, and you guys can see his work that he has done out there for USF. Again, Florida Gators coming to town. That's going to be a tough match. One of the top 5 teams, as Coach McCord had mentioned. That would be 6 p.m. at Corbett Stadium. And then the game that follows will be versus Towson. That would be on the 23rd at lunchtime, which I believe that is a weekend. Let me double check my calendar here to make sure I'm not exaggerating. Oh, let me see. So the 23rd, yes, it would be a Sunday. So after this, they have a little bit of a break. And then the next one will be at 12 o'clock against Towson. But in the meantime, they're going to play Florida. Their 3-0 record will be put to the test here tomorrow night at Corbett Stadium. If you guys have not been out there, please do us a favor. Purchase your tickets at gousfbulls.com. All right, later on this evening. Oh, and by the way, speaking about the parade, I like that Dave Spadaro, Philadelphia Eagles insider, Dave Spadaro, who's been on the network before, as he had asked about Jalen and he had the interview with Saquon Barkley. A great job to be able to get to those guys. Jalen could have, and I will say this, he could have, if he wanted to, basically could have just thrown other teams on their bus or just beat his chest. But Jalen, in true fashion, basically said, listen, I'm just going to let my work do all the talking. If you read in between the lines, it's basically he was saying, even they asked him if he was going to change his phone screen, which he's been asked billions and billions of times at this point. He had mentioned, you know what? It's good for him. It is really good for him to be able to keep that up there because it's a motivator. And so Saquon, I'm quite sure a lot of Giants fans are upset, but hey, Giants fans, Giants organization, thank you, because you know what? With his help, along with others, and Howie, even though he did take a beer can to the head, he got the imprint on there. Hopefully he's okay. Howie had something built right. In Kansas City, from what I understand, he still can't believe what had happened, but it's also going to add fuel to Andy Reid's fire. And there's a lot of people saying Andy Reid should be fired. In my opinion, I don't think so for what Andy has done. Last couple of comments here. As Duncan Dad said, as I was playing the video earlier, we apologize again, LOL, just drop a disclaimer and let it run. That's true. It's so true. It is so true. It was funny. If you guys didn't listen in, I will try to have it queued up for the next show. It was just funny to constantly hear, we apologize, folks. Now, if a player said shit, that's what it is. Nope, they turned around and said what he meant to say was shucks. I just thought it was hilarious. Sorry. It's one of my things. Jay says, by the way, women's lacrosse is nuts fun to watch. It is. It's a lot of fun to watch. And it's a fast-paced game for sure. Lehigh is good at lacrosse. They are. I will agree. Angel missed Nick with his beer can. Yeah, I missed that too. And also, Jake, the State Farm, Elliott, had apparently kicked one as well out there on Broad Street. And I thought that was pretty neat. There's Lord knows there's tons of videos out there for the Eagles. Duncan Dad says, I bleed for the city and for Howie. Yep, Howie is definitely a genius. And Joey B closed it out here. He says, Howie needs his own craft beer now, the Haymaker Pale Ale. You know what, Joey B? That's not bad. That's not bad. I may have to pay that forward to the organization to let them know. That's not bad. The Haymaker Pale Ale. Howie is a genius. I don't care who says what. Howie is a genius. The way he's been able to put these rosters together without overspending and without going crazy, Howie has become quite the genius. All right, closing out here. Jay says, Casey is in trouble, Angel. About to hit the wall. Oh, boy. Well, this should be fun. And if anybody knows, I know Jay does. Duncan Dad says, best kicker in Super Bowl history, Jake Elliott. How about that, Beef? And Jay says, we'll discuss that all tonight, and that we will. Don't forget, after this show, later on this afternoon, be the Drive with Q. That'll be from 5 to 6 p.m. And then Beeves World from 6 or a little after 6-ish to about 7:30 tonight. Our guest, Kathy Hoekstra, will be on with us this evening. So we will have her on and everyone else. And then later on, we'll see. It should be Lloyd Vance's Insider Football to close out the evening here on the Coastal Sports Network. Don't forget to always check out the content on SR1029thegame.com. We appreciate everyone who has downloaded the app. We appreciate everyone who follows us here on the network. Don't forget to follow us here on Twitter at CSN Florida. Also on SR1029 The Game with Rich Q on Q, and all of the talent here on the network as well. So we will talk to you a little bit later on this evening. Until then, enjoy the day, be safe, stay warm, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good day, everyone.